Well, guys, I could not be more excited for our next guest. We have Anthony Scaramucci, who is a dear friend and just someone who's so smart. He is the founder and managing partner of Skybridge. He's an author, he's an entrepreneur, Bitcoin lover.
Failed White House communications director, right?
I
You
know I
can
was trying
tell
to
him.
leave that out.
No, you tell him everything. It's all good. Better to be that way.
And our connective tissue is my husband, Brett.
Yep.
So before we dive in, because we're talking about nothing business related and nothing politics related, but before we dive in to some of my favorite topics, can you remember the very first time you met Brett?
He had very curly hair and he walked into a orientation meeting. We were all in the same section. So if I remember correctly, we were in section 4. And so it was Labor Day weekend. And he was a Brown graduate. I remember that. And I think he was like either captain or on his tennis team. And then by luck, we sort of ended up sitting near each other, sort of randomized seating in our section.
Nothing is
Then
random.
nothing is random. Exactly. Then we started studying together and then we built a rapport. And then we actually went out on a few double dates together with
Nice.
people that frankly were no longer with. You've left out the fact that you married Brett. And so, but I know Brett longer than you, right?
Oh,
So
way
I
longer.
know Brett for almost 40 years now. So,
That's crazy.
but we went to Goldman together and then we left and Brett joined a business that I started way back in 2000. We sold that business successfully. He went on to be, I guess, the deputy mayor and do some other really fun things. And then we reconnected in a business sense back in 2017 after I got demolished at the White House. And so he's now the president and chief operating officer of Skybridge. And I don't want to leave out John Sfulos. He's another one of our classmates. He joined as a research director. So
yeah.
it's a 40-year trio.
Amazing. Amazing. Brett describes you as one of the smartest people he's ever met. He describes you as one of the most well-read people he's ever met.
Being
And
generous. I mean, he's also incredibly smart, as are you. I just happen to love reading, so spend a lot of time reading.
yeah, I want to dive into all of that. But my favorite topic of all time is spirituality. And it's something that I sort of kept out of my business for a very long time. I thought that dating had to be all about pragmatics and all about helping people optimize the apps and figure out how to banter better. And I do all of that. But I kind of realized really quickly, like, if someone's not in touch with who they are on a core level, they can swipe all day long and nothing's going to change. So I think of spirituality. Well, let me ask you, how do you define spirituality?
So again, we've got thousands of years of history. I think it's very important to point out to people that you're in a 100,000-year-old piece of machinery that hasn't had a software upgrade in 100,000 years. So your phone went from 1 to 17 in 15 years, but not you. So everything going on in here really hasn't evolved much over the last 100,000 years. So
Wow.
it's important to go back and study the ancient awareness because sometimes our current awareness has been clouded by institutions or culture. It could be crowded out by religious proclivities. We do know that whether it was the church or Islamic faith or other churches, in order to help their people convert into their faith, other elements of the story were destroyed. Things like astrology were destroyed.
Right.
Libraries were burnt. And so for me, when I look at spirituality and I think about spirituality, I want to think about it in the context academically of everything, not just my Christian beliefs or being raised as a Roman Catholic, but like what was the 10,000-year conversation about spirituality? And so from that framework, what I would say is that we're definitely endowed with something. We have sentience. We have an ability to observe ourselves. We have consciousness in the sense that when I say sentience, it's not saying that we're God, but I'm saying that we have awareness, which seems to be different from other forms of life on the planet.
Right.
And so a result of which, are you in touch with that or not? But I think you know this from your observation of the planet, and I would say this from my observation of the planet. Everybody's coming in with a different operating software.
Right.
There's code inside your body. Some people are more sensitive than others. Other people are more resilient. It feels like some people have lived before. To
Yep.
me, at least it
Like
does.
old soul, new
Yeah,
soul.
yeah, they've had looks like they've had more experience.
Yeah.
I have 5 children. I can tell you, Amy, that every one of my children are very, very different.
Mhm.
Some are taking a more mature perspective, some are taking a new perspective to life.
Mhm.
And so for me, when I think about spirituality, like you said, you want to be in touch with what's inside you and you want to be comfortable with it. And you want to screen out whatever the enforced mores or the enforced customs are
Mhm.
and get comfortable with it, straining out all the other influences.
And
I think that's important.
yeah.
If you're authentic,
Yeah.
you can live a long, healthy life as a young person,
Mhm.
no matter what your age is.
Right.
Okay, so you can sense people that are in their 90s that feel very sprightly and very young. They're in touch with themselves. If you're driving yourself crazy trying to conform to something that your mom wants or your brother wants or your dad or something like that, then you can angst yourself into old age.
So at what point I agree with that, and I think all we are is energy. I think your energy announces you before you even speak, and I always say the biggest predictor of success, I think, in your whole life is energy. But take us back, like, you grew up Roman Catholic. At what
Old school.
point Yeah, like, at what point did you start to sort of say maybe even question it or say, "Wow, like, who am I on a foundational level?"
Well, okay, so that's another thing that happens. So you're coming into the earth. You probably have an operating system that you're born with, and there's some of that is just natural to you, but now you're influenced by your environment,
Yeah.
right? So if your parents are chain smokers, which mine were,
Yep.
they're going to
Same.
impair your ability to breathe. Okay, it's just it's not could have also stunted my growth. I don't know. I mean, all that smoke I was breathing, but so
Same.
you have these vectors of influence that are happening at the same time. So you can't disallow for that. You have to say that you've been influenced by that. I grew up in a spiritual family. My grandmother went to church 3 times a week. She was there on Wednesday. She went on Saturday for confession. She took communion on Sunday.
Hmm.
Also, she sent 2 children into the Second World War. Her 2 sons fought. One was wounded. My uncle Anthony, who I'm named after, landed on Normandy Beach, survived the beach. 4 days later, he was wounded in a small town in France on the way to Paris. Now, he survived those wounds and didn't want to get discharged, so he
Wow.
stayed and fought in the Battle of the Bulge. The younger brother, Salvatore, got there, was in a different group of fighters, but he also fought in the Battle of the Bulge. And she used to go to church. And so, as a result of their survival of that war, she had it in her head. She was going to church every day to thank God for that.
Wow.
So, not every day, but I mean 3 times a week. And so, we grew up in a very spiritual family and belief system. My grandmother had a lot of karmic energy too. She was a big believer. You did the right thing for other people. You treated everybody with respect,
Mhm.
dignity, and kindness, and then good things would happen to you. She was right about that because if
Hmm.
you can tell right away when people are treating other people with dignity and kindness, do they have some level of grace? They have some level of understanding
Yep.
of our connectivity.
Yes.
We're connected to everybody. And again, my grandmother started out in this country as a maid, Amy. She couldn't get a job. There were signs in the placard saying no Italians need to ply in storefronts. And so
Wow.
she started as a maid. She turned people's beds.
Hmm.
She worked in a laundromat. So people would bring their clothes in and she would do the laundry and
Hmm.
iron all the laundry. That's how she got her start at 18, 19
Wow.
here in the country. So I'm no better than anybody. Like when I'm in a hotel room, I think, okay, the person turning the bed here or changing the towels could be somebody's grandmother. I got to make sure I treat them with respect and dignity and kindness. So the spirituality is connection.
Mhm.
Spirituality is understanding your role in the whole thing. You're part of it.
Mhm.
You and I are blessed. Obviously, we're born in the United States. We born into areas of the country that had relative affluence. I'm the product of a very good public school system.
Mhm.
My parents were uneducated, but they were fierce about us getting educated. My
Mhm.
father used to always say at the dinner table, "Hey, I didn't go to college, but you know, that's on me. You're going to college. You're going to figure this out and go to college." And so I can remember being 5, 6, 7 years old, and the mantra was, "I'm going to college. I'm going to college. I'm going to college."
Is that where your love of reading started? Like
No, I think I was born with it.
Mm.
Okay, so my older brother used to tease me, but when I was in the first grade, I went to the library. We had this list, we called it the reading list in the first grade, and I had the longest reading list. And I used to go to the library, pull out a book, and maybe it was, Dick Meets Jane or whatever that was, but I read the book. I read
Yeah.
the book, and I would get a little star. And I've always had a love of reading, and it's always been for me this great intellectual curiosity about what is in a book. I always tell people I have this podcast that I host called Open Book.
Mhm.
It's because I think I'm an open book, but I also want to interview authors, right? So hopefully you'll come on when your book is published. But I interview authors: Ken Follett, Daniel Silva, best-selling authors, historians. I'll read, anything, frankly. And my whole thing is from a book. I mean, it was easier to say this before the inflation, but I used to say for $10 and 10 hours of your time,
Yeah.
you could get 10 years of experience from an author. It's probably $35 now, but you get the point that I'm making, that
Yeah.
this is a way to advance your knowledge. It's a way to understand human nature better. It's a way to tap into a conversation that's been going on for thousands of years. If you read the Iliad, and obviously I can't read it in ancient Greek, but I've read several different translations,
Mm.
Homer is teaching you about human beings. If you read the Odyssey, he's teaching you about the journey of human beings. If you read those two books and a little bit of Shakespeare, you don't really need much more of a study of human psychology than those things. And so
Yeah.
for me, I like reading because it advances my ability to make the observation, but then it also gives me an opportunity to distill those things and then provide my own analysis.
I love that. I love that. I before we started filming, gave you Michael Singer's the name of his couple of books,
Yeah.
which I'm obsessed with him. Anyone listening, a lot of my followers know that I love him. And he talks about spirituality as knowing that you're not the voice in your head. That the voice in your head, that neurotic voice that tells you what to wear, who to love, who not to love, what job to take, is just the voice
Hmm.
based off of your lived experience. You're the one witnessing it,
Yeah.
right? Do you connect to that?
Yeah. Have you ever read Winesburg, Ohio?
I have not.
Yeah. So that's the author's point in Winesburg, Ohio, is that there's an inner voice going on, and there's something going on in your personality that Brett doesn't know about, your children don't know about, but you know about. And it's never just been revealed. There's something operating the system here. Some of it is your, like you said, your third party sort of detachment and your witnessing of your life,
Right.
which sometimes helps you make good decisions. Some of it is just literally your DNA. Some of it is also the metaphysical nature of your intuition.
Mhm.
Like, and you probably tell this to your clients when they're out on a date, they can get an intuitive feeling if there's a connection
Mhm.
or not a connection. And you probably get it pretty quickly
Mhm.
as opposed to not get it. And so if you're in touch with that, if you're able to tap into that, it's actually better for you to be that way. You can cloud yourself up with the expectations of others, or one of the big pressures that's happening now in the country is social media. So we're looking at the social media, we're looking at filtered lives, Amy, of people,
Mhm.
yet every one of us is living an unfiltered life.
Mhm.
Right. So we go, oh, this person eating perfect amount of food. They look great. Maybe they put themselves on Ozempic and now they are thinner, or they're
Using
doing all the,
filters.
yeah, they're doing all this stuff, but you're living an unfiltered life. Right. And you're dealing with the psychological trauma of growing up,
Mhm.
because everybody's got some level of trauma. There's nobody that escapes it.
Mhm.
This is Homer's point, the human condition. If you walked into an ancient theater, they had the masks, and one of the masks was a happy mask, and the other mask was a frowning or sad mask. And so you have comedy and you have tragedy in your life. And what was Homer trying to say several thousand years ago? This is the human condition. You are here, and there are so many things outside of your control.
Mhm.
Sophocles once said, maybe those that were unborn are left without the prospect of dealing with the tragedy or the sadness. Perhaps it would be better to be unborn. Oedipus said more or less that
Hmm.
after he murdered his father and married his mother, and he realized that happened, and stabbed his eyeballs out, right? So
Hmm.
they were trying to teach you about the condition. You're coming in with a package of things,
Mhm.
whether you like them or not, rich or poor.
Yep.
You are here to have potentially some great joys in your life, but you're guaranteed to have trials and tribulations. You're guaranteed to lose a loved one or to get a
Mhm.
sickness or an illness or to have some demise, right? You have a sell by, you have an expiration date the moment you come in.
And so what we're gonna go deep. What do you think the whole purpose and we're here for 5 seconds. Look at how many people, billions of people are here. Look at, where we are on a spinning this globe. Like, what's the whole purpose of being here?
Well, I have more of a Stoic philosophy about that, right? So when I read the Stoics, primarily Aurelius, but the other Stoics, when I think of Seneca, when I think of their writings, I can't know that. See, there's a mystery to life, and so in that void, I have to have some faith. I
Mhm.
have to I have to ultimately say, okay, I'm made from stardust. I'm part of primarily our observation is it's an inanimate universe, meaning there's a huge vacuum of space and there's lots of distance between us and other stars and planetary systems.
Mhm.
And if you think about the composition of mass on Earth that has life versus mass on Earth that has no life,
Yeah.
the mass is very, very small,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So therefore, this is just a special thing that I'm experiencing. And so what a Stoic would say, I don't know the answer, but I've got to try to figure out a way to enjoy both parts of it. Where a
Right.
Buddhist would say, I'm in a constant state of change. And so what's happening right now that's beneficial, I have to enjoy. Something's happening that's not beneficial
It's
or
fleeting.
meets me with sadness. I have to accept it, but also accept that that's also going to change. And so
Mhm.
when I think about purpose, for me, I really think it's down to like what Paul was writing about, St. Paul was writing about. I think it's down to love. Ultimately, I think that is really the only purpose. I think we get our greatest satisfaction, most of us, right? We're wired to help each other. We're wired to embrace each other and to figure out a way to help each other. If I leave New York City today, and I go back to my house on Long Island, and before I close my eyes, say, okay, well, I helped a couple people today. I got somebody a doctor's appointment. I got somebody a hospital bed that was in the waiting room in the
Mhm.
corner. I mean, just simple things, or I gave one of my cousins some money for his rent. Um,
Mhm.
that makes me feel good, right? And
Mhm.
so everybody's wired differently, but I find the happiest people are in that forward position. If you walk into the rotunda at City Field, and one of my heroes, of course, I never met him, and I've met his wife a few times, is Jackie Robinson. And so,
Mm.
for people listening in or not sports aficionados, Jackie was the first person in the United States to cross the color barrier.
Mhm.
So, on April 15th, 1947, he put on a Brooklyn Dodger uniform and he went out and played Major League Baseball. He's the first African American to do this. Of course, he was booed and hissed at and called every name in the book, and they wouldn't let him live in certain hotels when he was traveling on the road, and it was all kinds of stuff that they did to him. But he said something beautiful, and it's in the rotunda at City Field. It says, we're at our best when we're helping others. We're at our best
Mm.
when we're serving others. So
Yeah.
you could get to a point in your life, we'll say, well, what difference does that make? It is fleeting, and that could cause great depression. Or you could look at it and say, well, that does make a difference. In that moment in time, in this very precious universe, I was a force for good. I was a force for, in his case, social change, or in my case, maybe I've helped out a few people along the way. And I think
I love that.
that's enough of a purpose. That
Mm.
should be enough.
Mhm.
You see what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
If you, and again, not because I don't want to ask another question, but I just want you to think about like what Lao Tzu would say, the ancient Chinese philosopher, and this is very good for your clients. They should think about this. What Lao Tzu once said is that if I think too much of my past and I think and recant what I did right and wrong, I'm going to be depressed because Amy, everybody has made mistakes in their life.
Yep.
Okay. And if I think too much about my future, if I think too much forwardly, then I'm going to get anxious because I can't predict the future. I don't know when the illness is coming or
Mhm.
when I'm going to lose a loved one or what's going to happen. So both those movements in terms of my mind
Mhm.
or hurtful to me. I've got to focus in on the present. I got to focus in on today, and I've got to dial into what I'm doing right now with my family, with my loved ones, talking to you,
Mhm.
in order to really find my fullest contentment. So I
And
don't kick my, I got fired from the White House. I did some stupid ass shit in the White House. I don't kick myself in the ass. I don't wake up in the morning and say, wow, did something really stupid, or I did this stupid or that stupid, or I misfired on an investment. Let me kick myself in the pants this morning before I wake
right.
up.
Right.
I don't do that.
Do you feel like you have achieved a point at which you live in the moment most of the time, or what's your biggest struggle?
Well, that's the biggest struggle. So here are the three big struggles. Very hard to live in the moment. Very hard not to think about others and what they think of you, but let
Mhm.
me give you the newsflash, they're really not thinking of you, okay?
Nope. Nope.
And
They're
so
thinking
they
about
they
themselves.
don't give a shit about you. After you're
Nope.
dead, the funeral lasts, they'll throw some flowers on your grave, and then they'll move on to, like, watch a sitcom. Okay, so the
Yep.
3 things are the worry of the future, the comparative analysis that comes in with that, right?
Mhm.
So it's what other people think of you, the comparative analysis, are you living with it? Those are things that we always struggle with to live in the present,
Mhm.
right? I'm not a liar. I mean, I've walked into rooms. I tell a funny story of my first time in Davos. I'm like 43 years old. I'm walking into the room. They're like 24-year-olds that are worth billions of dollars.
Mm.
I'm worth no billions of dollars. Okay. I always tease Brad, say, we're billionaires, but only in Zimbabwe where it costs like $10 billion to cross town in a cab. You know what? But the point is, like, I remember feeling unworthy. I remember feeling, oh, wow, I misfired in my life.
Mm.
And then you got to dial it in. You got to bring yourself to realize, hey, did you pick your parents? I didn't pick my parents. Did you
Mhm.
pick the body that you ended up with here? No. Okay, now maybe you can make it better through exercise or meditation, but you didn't pick the body. You didn't pick your skin color.
Right. Right.
Okay. You can change your eye color now with contacts, but you really can't change your skin color, your culture, where you came from, what's going on in your operating system.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to talk about astrology at some point, but what's
Yes. Next.
going on in your operating system, right? And so you can't decide all that, but what you can do is make the best of it.
Mhm.
What you can do is, maybe your grandmother was right. What other people think of you is none of your business.
Yep.
None of, why would you care even? It's not worth it,
Yeah, and I always say, I have to remind people, like, we were all born lovable. Like, think of a baby, think of a toddler who's running around saying, "Yeah, I suck. I'm just okay." like, and so at what point did we start to believe the story in our head, the narrative that someone planted or that we made up? So,
It's limiting.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, your parents could do that to you. They could tell you, well, you're not good enough, or that's for other people. You could tell yourself that. You could be in a situation where you've lost a few times.
Mhm,
I've been in a situation where I've lost a lot more than one time, but I'm
mhm.
always ready to get back up into the game. Sometimes you just got to
Yeah.
stay in the game longer than other people, right? Sometimes your success is 80% of it is just showing up, right? But, but again, if you can get up in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to do a couple things today. I'm going to do one thing for my body, maybe go to exercise, sauna, massage. I'm going to do one thing for my mind and try to read for 1 to 2 hours a day,
Mhm.
or listen to a book tape. Maybe I'm going to run and listen to a book tape, kill two birds with one stone.
Meditating, not for you.
Meditation's not for me. Meditation's for you. Meditation's for Brad. Not for me. Didn't
I
work.
know.
Did not work out for me. Did not. I mean, I got right into the dark night of the soul, like 5 minutes into meditating. But I grew up with a lot of childhood trauma. So that's
Mm,
like, your husband's Buddhist psychologist basically said to me, yeah, you probably grew up with a lot of trauma. So when you're meditating, everything's exploding
yeah,
in terms of what's going on in your brain. So,
like on overdrive.
but I'm in, listen, I think I'm in a healthy state of understanding. I think one of the biggest risks that we have is our ego.
Mhm,
And you
mhm,
could have a negative based ego or a positive based ego. So you got to be very careful. Your
mhm.
positive based ego can make you hubristic, and your negative based ego could make you not want to do things that are actually good for you.
Right.
Right. So you got to watch. You got to watch your ego. You got to take your ego out of things,
And that's what
takes
That
pride out of things.
right, and that's where that
I don't
sort
wanna
of
go out on a date with
observing.
that girl because that girl's blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe she's the right person anyway. Drop your ego, you know what I mean?
Exactly,
Right?
exactly. Okay, let's pivot and talk about astrology. So, I had no idea how well-versed you are and curious you are about astrology. We were having dinner at Rao's,
Mhm.
and I literally overheard you across the table say, "All we are is stardust." And I, like, whipped my head. I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Well, I've gotten in trouble though. I mean, you could ask one of our partners. I was at the table in Dubai. There were 5 family members from Kuwait. I guessed every one of their star signs at the table,
God.
and the old man was really pissed. He was like, "Well, did you
Like
look
voodoo.
us up on Wikipedia or some shit? It's a kinda like parlor trick." I'm like, "Well, actually, I don't even know how to pronounce your fucking name, so how could I
Oh
look
my
you up
god,
on Wikipedia?"
I
But
love this.
but I will tell you that I've studied it for 40 years now.
God, this is
Uh,
so
this
cool.
is, why did I study it? I had an epiphany. Nancy Reagan, Ronald Reagan's wife, after he was shot, she was consulting an astrologist to set the president's schedule. And Don Regan, who was the chief of staff, was outing her in his book. They hated each other, right? So she was trying to make it out like she was horrific to do this and sort of myopically stupid, et cetera. And I was sitting there in school. I said, Miss, she's a smart woman. Why is she so focused on astrology? What is she vibing from astrology? And I said, I'm not going to discount that. I got to go learn about it. Okay. So
Yeah.
I actually went to the Widener Library, cross campus from law school into the undergraduate school at Harvard. I mean, this is young people don't even know what I'm talking about. It was a Dewey Decimal
Oh,
System.
yeah.
I looked up the books. I got the books out of the stack. I sat at the table, maybe 5 or 6 days. I read about astrology. I read about the history of it. I read about what the philosophy was of it and how it obviously got corrupted by the religions.
Yep.
And so, do you want a quick summary?
Yeah,
Give you a quick
I
summary?
do.
So, the ancients believed that, yes, we are made of stardust. Remember, we have a lot of light pollution now, particularly in a city like New York. But if you were go to Tasmania, you can see the constellations. Go to Norway, way up north in Norway, you have the northern lights.
Yeah.
So the ancients looked at all of this and said, okay, there has to be some connectivity to this. The
Mhm.
nighttime stars, the moon, the sun, all of this stuff, we have to somehow be connected into it because we're fragments of all of this. And so they built a system. And they basically said, okay, if you're born at certain times under certain constellations,
Mhm.
they wrote it all down. They said, okay, here are the traits of the people's personalities. These are general concepts. These are strengths and weaknesses. There are 12 patterns or 12 sort of months, 12 sort of signs. And then, when sort of modern religion took hold, they broke astrology from astronomy. They
Mhm.
said, well, the astronomy's study of stars, the planetary systems, legitimate. Astrology, the study of the behavioral connection to the universe, is bunkum.
Right.
And so to completely ignore that. And if
Mm.
it ends up next to the cartoon section in your local tabloid, completely ignore it. But what you were missing then is 3,000 years of ancient teaching. And so I'll just start out like this and have you think about it this way to provoke people. If you were made of approximately 70% water, 30% matter, and the earth itself, geologically observed, is 70% water and 30% matter, you're sort of connected to the earth.
Mhm.
That was a thought.
Mhm.
Moreover, if the moon, and we know this, the moon is moving the water. The moon is affecting the tide. We have low and high tide. Ask any fisherman.
Mhm.
I lived in a bay area, so you can see the tide go up and the tide go down. Well, if you're the exact same composition as the earth, is having no impact on the water inside your body, it's having no impact.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not fair to say that it doesn't, because of course it does. And so, we have these words like lunatic, or you're affected by the moon, or lunacy. But
Hmm.
then some of our great fiction writers, the werewolf became the werewolf, the wolf man, during the full moon.
Right.
And we know that scientifically, we know there's more water broken. We know there's more things that are happening. Some people will blame it on the light from the moon,
Right.
but even under cloudy situations,
Yep.
during a full moon, more things are happening.
There's more aren't there more sort of like police calls, more.
More police calls. There's obviously more water breakage for pregnancy perspective and things like
Mhm.
that. And so and I'll leave you with this thought, half of the population is on a 28-day cycle. The moon is on a 28-day cycle. Now, you just said earlier that there are no coincidences. And so now you're thinking like an ancient observer of the earth. So
Mhm.
if the moon's on a 28-day cycle and half the population that's connected to reproductivity
Mhm.
is on a 28-day cycle, there must be a connection. So they built this system and they built this way of observing. And if you were living in the ancient world, they would say, okay, what's your birthday? And they say, okay, well, here are your traits. Here are the traits of a Taurus. Here are the traits of a
Yeah.
Capricorn. Here are the different traits. Again, no bad signs, no good signs per se, but good and bad qualities. And then, of course, they took it further and they said, well, the rising sign at your birth, what was the constellation on the horizon? That would be the first impression that you're making. You would be infused with elements of that sign into your personality.
Right.
Where was the moon? Well, that would be you in repose. How do you think when you're reflecting on the earth?
Mm.
Your star sign is the gravitron of your personality. Your rising sign is sort of the impressions that you're making,
Yep.
energy that you're driving with. And then your moon sign is sort of how you are when you're reflecting.
Mhm.
And so, I have freaked people out. I freaked out some of your uh, daughters, right? I mean, they've sat at the table with me
Oh, yeah.
and I've explained their personalities to them and they're like all flicked out. And I was like, oh, that's a parlor chick. He's just talking in generalities.
Yeah.
You can ask my wife. We were in Italy. We were at La Serenus and one of my buddies has this big, beautiful yacht. He calls me. He says, Mooch, we're going to have dinner. I said, okay, great. I'm bringing one of my friends and they brought the couple to the table. And I looked at them. Okay, that's a Leo and a Capricorn for sure.
Oh my
The
gosh.
woman is a Leo, the husband's a Capricorn
That's
for
crazy.
sure, and they were fighting. They were fighting, but they were trying to act like they weren't fighting. And so, I let them drink a little bit, and I said, "All right, look, guys, I don't really want to interrupt the fight that you guys are having, but you are fighting." And I said, "You're obviously the Leo, he's the Capricorn, and let me tell you what you're fighting about because I can sense the energy."
Wow.
And I thought the husband was going to fall off the table, right? And I looked at him. I said, "You're being really, really stupid. I'm not trying to side with your wife, but the Leo is a generosity sign."
Yeah.
And she's giving money to her family that you don't like, okay? Because, you're more of a Capricorn, you're more practical, you don't like it, so cut it out.
Oh
Cut her some slack at the
my
table,
god.
okay? And
That's
then
amazing.
they both looked at me and
Freaked
then,
out.
they freaked out and then the ventilation started where they started explaining the situation and then I described both of their personalities to the point where the woman went bright red, but of course she wanted to hear more. My wife was like, "Okay, here he goes again."
You're just like,
But
"Please cut it out."
but I believe it. I
Yeah.
believe it. I believe it. And so contradicts Catholicism, contradicts these other things, but I think it's part of our story. And
Yeah.
so I believe it and it's worked for me.
Yeah, yeah. And when you looked at my sign and my rising and moon, did that track for you? Just
Yeah, well, you sent me something. Can I tell the
yeah,
story? You
yeah.
sent me something from ChatGPT, and I looked at it, I said, "Okay, that's not you. So this is wrong." And so then I put my coordinates into ChatGPT, and it gave me the wrong
Right.
moon and rising, everything got the star sign right. But I was like, okay, what is ChatGPT doing wrong? And of course, the way they were calculating it was not the way you would calculate it if you've lived in the northern hemisphere,
Right.
the way you and I have. And so once I figured that out, and then I put it in, then it came back right. And it was just because you don't have you don't you're not giving off that energy. So if you're a Taurus,
Mhm.
you're a Cancer
Mhm.
and your moon is in Capricorn. Okay,
Mhm.
so you have double Earth in your sign.
Yep.
Okay, and so what does all that mean? Well, Tauruses are incredibly practical. They're very homebody. They're incredibly tensely loyal as people. They make phenomenal friends,
And partners like
uh,
Deirdre.
partners, but they're stubborn.
Yeah.
So you have this persistent stubbornness. You can't pull a Taurus ever by the horns. When you start pulling on a Taurus, they flip out. They get very rigid. They get very, you have to push by the rump. You have to push the Taurus. But the Tauruses are also, they have a proclivity to want to stay in their pasture. They are not travelers like
Yep.
Sagittarius. Doesn't mean they don't like traveling. They will do it, but they would rather travel to a place that they recognize.
Yes.
If they have a home that they travel to, fine. If they went to same location on a trip for every February, that's better for them than moving to other places because they like the levels of comfort in that.
That's trippy. That's
Uh,
100% right.
okay, and it's also it's a very big earth sign. So Tauruses like talk about the influence of Cancer in a second, but Tauruses like dressing up. They willing to do it. They like their appearances, but they way rather be in pajamas. Way rather be in pajamas.
1000%.
But now your rising sign is Cancer, and so people don't really understand Cancer because the word Cancer means illness to people. It's not that really how it started because when in the ancient world, when they were doing autopsies, if somebody had intestinal cancer, stomach cancers, it looked like this. Okay, it had a
Mm.
curve to it. Hippocrates said, "Oh, they died of the cancer. They died of the disease that shapes like the claw of the crab."
Oh, wow.
And so the word cancer actually comes from this early diagnosis of
Oh
cancer.
my God.
But the cancer of the crab is when you look at the crab
Mhm.
in the constellations. The crabs are hermetic. They have a tendency to be insular.
Mhm.
They're moody. They're moody. They're savers. They're
Mhm.
home buddies.
Mhm.
But then they also, because they're so much like that, they have this exponential attention to style. Because remember, you always create an overbite in your personality. If your proclivities are to be a homebody and to be a hermit, well, when you're out, you're going to really push yourself.
You're gonna nail it.
Jackie Onassis is the quintessential Cancer.
Mm.
She was a homebody. She really just wanted her kids at her
Right.
uh, house in Virginia. She wanted to ride horses. She accepted the glamour of her life, and so she definitely went to Gucci and she went to Oleg Cassini to have her gowns made.
Right.
But at the end of the day, the Cancers are really they're crabs. They're savers. They're misers. Not in a bad way. They're just they want to make sure that there's a grounded, financial stability
Yeah.
underneath them.
Yeah.
Capricorn, different sign. So you're interesting because you're an earth sign in terms of your stars, but your moon sign's also earth. So
Mhm.
you have double earth. So, that could make you impatient with people.
Mhm.
So when you see like highfalutin people or people that are overly braggadocious, or you see people that are too pushy, they're trying to
Mhm.
promote themselves too much
Mhm.
because you're a double earth sign, that could be a turnoff for you. And so you have to bite your tongue a lot. I bet you may even have a couple clients that are like that and you're biting your tongue
Yeah.
because you don't want to tell them, what you really think because you want to try to be respectful of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I also have
Have
like
I
an
missed anything yet or
No,
no?
that's good. That's really, really good. I have an intense fear of water, but that could be like a past life or something.
Yeah, probably not related to your signs, but if you were Sagittarius, even if you had a past life where you drowned, you would be swimming. Because Sagittarius don't give a shit. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Sagittarius are way more adventuresome. They have wanderlust. Remember this, the imagery is the horse with a human top, right? So
Right.
they have 4 times the leg energy
Mm.
of, uh, of the regular people in the sign. So they're going to move around. They'll
Mhm.
try new things all the time and they'll fight through their fears to do things even in that. You as a double earth sign, you're okay with that fear and you're okay
Yes.
staying away from
Yep.
those things.
I am.
Yeah. Yeah,
Totally.
because you don't want to address your phobias because you don't see the need to do that because you're centered on the things that you like.
Yeah.
Sagittarius would chomp right through those because they have more sense of venturesomeness in their nature.
How does knowing your dynamic with Deirdre according to your signs, like how does that help you make sense of things or not or
Yes. I mean, listen, you could be, and again, here's another fallacy. Some signs do match better than others, but you could be with any other sign.
right.
But what in the ancient world, where you would be at a great advantage, is they would teach you about your sign,
Mm.
right? So, like my sign, like my, not a curse, but the observation that somebody would make, a shaman of astrology would make about me. I'm a Capricorn, right? So you and I would have no problem getting along. We're both earth signs, Taurus and Capricorn. But I have a fire sign as a rising sign. I'm an Aries
Hmm.
rising sign.
Okay.
It's probably why Brett and I get along well, because he's a Leo,
Mhm.
right? So those fit,
Right.
right?
Right.
But you have to remember something. If you were my shaman, he would say, okay, you're going to have a problem because you're going to walk into a room and people are going to think you're totally different than you actually are. And
Mm.
that's always happened to me.
Oh,
I
interesting.
walk into the room, people think I'm some Guido from Long Island, and they forget the fact that I went to Harvard Law School, or I may have read 10,000 books in my lifetime, right? So,
Right.
and that's fine. And so they'll have a first impression. And I can't tell you the number of times people have said to me, well, you're totally different than I thought you were based on my observation of you. Okay. And that's because your rising sign is giving the first impression.
Wow. And do you
Okay.
feel
So
like you're
so,
now counterbalancing sometimes?
well, no, what you have to do is not be upset about that.
Right.
See, if I wasn't trained to be self-aware,
Yeah.
when someone comes over to me and says that to me, you could have a tendency to be upset about that.
Right.
Well, F you, you didn't realize I was intellectually more
Mhm.
uh,
Get like have resentment
available.
around it.
And I had a higher intellectual quotient than you're giving me credit for. F you.
Right.
But I never do that. I laugh about it.
You just let it
Let
happen.
it happen. You got to let it happen.
Yeah.
Like you get fired from the White House. Not only do you let it happen, you got to laugh about it.
Yeah,
And
it's
then when someone
remarkable.
tells me that I was fired after 10 days, no, I was fired after 11 days. Don't jip me out of the 9% of my federal career. My point is that like you got to be able to roll with what's happening to you. A very big thing for Capricorns is they get hit hard at one point in their life.
Hmm.
Ralph Branca, born on my birthday, 38 years prior to me, you wouldn't remember him, but he was a very famous pitcher, and he gave up a home run in a very big playoff game. And a guy by the name of Bobby Thompson hit the home run off him, and Ralph had to be traumatized and deal with that his whole life. Capricorn.
Mm.
John Corzine, Capricorn, governor of New Jersey, he got hit with the MF Global scandal
Hmm.
during the 2008 financial crisis, has to deal with it. And
Wow.
you're a Capricorn, you usually get one big anvil falls from the sky, hits you in the head. Richard Nixon,
Mm.
the Watergate crisis, he had to spend the remaining 20 years of his life dealing with the bone crushing nature of that defeat and his exit from the presidency.
So
And so,
yours
well, mine thus far has been the White House firing. That's
yeah.
been a fairly cataclysmic thing that happened to me. And I think if I didn't have my self-awareness, I wouldn't have been able to have embraced it as much as I did. I think
Right.
your resilience will come from your ability to deal head on with things that are happening to you. Like your expectations have to be right, Amy.
Mhm. Mhm.
People have too high expectations for life. If you have zero expectations, then when things are happening to you, you're like, okay, you're more accepting of them.
But that
Moreover,
doesn't
when
mean
good
you
things
don't
are
have
happening,
drive, right?
no, but I'm talking about expectations is I don't expect anything from life.
Right.
I expect that I have to make it happen for myself.
Mhm.
But I'm not sitting there saying, oh, woe is me. Let me play the victim. That should not have happened to me.
Right.
I'm like, okay, that happens. You get ups and downs, bumps and scrapes.
Mhm.
You have to have a gratitude journal. You got to get up in the morning and say, hey, I'm here today. So far, no cancer diagnosis, God bless.
Yeah.
You know, I think I told you this, and I'll share this with you. I lost the use of my right lung during COVID. The nerve that innervates my diaphragm was paralyzed. Starting to come back now. It took 3 years,
Mhm.
but you could freak out, become overly neurotic about it, drive
Mhm.
yourself crazy, or you can get in the gym, work on your breathing,
Mhm.
and accept it. And you have to deal with these things. My father-in-law, who I adored, he died of a rarer form of leukemia.
Mm.
Uh, he was stoic, graceful,
Mm.
rarely complained.
Mm.
What are we going to do? You're coming in and you're leaving, and you can't control any of that, right?
Yeah.
Also, your anger comes from control. Think about it.
Mm.
When you're getting angry with your kids, you're getting angry with your spouse, you're trying to control something. they're doing something that you don't like, you're angry about it because you want them to do something differently.
Yeah.
Or you're angry at an employee, or you're angry at a business partner, or you're angry at
You're
your
angry that
children.
your dating life isn't going the way you want or that you haven't found your person yet.
Yeah.
I see it all the time.
Yeah, because you're not able to control the thing.
Right.
Okay, so you have to remember, if you're angry, it's because there's something going on in your life that you're not able to
And you're
control,
trying to.
and you're trying to.
Yeah.
And the minute you relax, the
Yeah.
minute you stop trying to control it, things will start working out.
Right. Because then energy can flow in the direction it's supposed to.
You're blocking the energy from flowing.
And that's exactly
Right. It's a big important lesson.
it's such a lesson. And people come to me all the time and they're like, I heard you talk about energy blocks. I don't know what that means, but I feel like something must be blocked. And it could be anything. It could be the narrative you have about your past, like we were talking about. You're stuck on it.
Yeah.
It could be worrying about women in their 30s all the time come to me. They've frozen their eggs twice and they're like, I need to make this happen. Like, I need to find my person. And they're blocking themselves because, and I get it, it's a lot of pressure and they're worried, but that's a block. So,
Well, it could be a career block.
yeah.
They could be sitting there saying, "I got to make this happen. Got to make this happen. Got to make this happen." Well, you know what? If it's not ready to happen, then it's not going to happen.
And all you're
Steve,
doing is spinning your,
Steve Harvey tells one of the best stories ever. You can find it on YouTube. He's like, "Okay, wanted to bust out in showbiz. I did this, didn't happen. Did that, did this, did that. Not happy, not happen. Oh man, I'm getting too old for this shit. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen." Finally said, "Fuck it. It's not going to happen."
and that's what it
And then
happened.
it happened.
Always.
You see what I
The
mean? And
minute
so
you let it go.
yeah, you got to let it go in life. You got to also detach.
Yes.
So you're renting everything. That beautiful
Mm.
home you're living in, someone else is going to be living in it. You're going to be in the tomb, man. Or you're going to be burnt up in the crematorium and thrown into the ocean. Someone else is going to be living in it. Someone else is going to own your piece of art. Someone else is going to own your sculpture. Something that's super important to you that you're totally attached to. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Okay, so learn how to detach.
Yeah.
What would Aurelius say? What would General Aurelius say? You say, well, the 5-year-old version of Anthony's long gone.
Mm.
There's been replaced by a 61-year-old version of Anthony. Not that I don't remember some elements of me at 5, but my representation and how I'm facing off with the world is not there.
Yeah.
You see? Let it go.
Oh my
And if you
God.
can do that,
Amazing.
you can find in your personality yourself,
Your
like,
true nature.
yeah. And by the way, Amy, this is why you're so good at what you're doing, is because you're going to give people an unfiltered version of yourself on my podcast. And right away when someone is spinning
Yep.
and they're trying to come up with the right words to say at the perfect cadence and blah, blah. And wow, they're being really authentic.
Yeah.
And they're being vulnerable
Yes.
to who they are. And they're also being vulnerable to human condition. You want to get somebody's trust, be open with them,
Oh my
tell them
gosh.
about your life.
This is going to help so many people. Vulnerability is so attractive. Being vulnerable, being imperfect, being messy. It's like
100%.
that's the magnet. It's like everyone shows up on
Hetero men like cellulite, by the way. Okay. If you're dating a guy that doesn't like the cellulite, may not be as hetero. Maybe not be as hetero as you think. Okay.
Oh my God.
Hetero men like imperfection. Okay.
Oh my God. I
Just to
love
give
it.
you the news flash.
I love it so much. Okay, before we wrap up, I just have quick fire questions.
All right,
You don't
go
have to spend a ton of time on these,
Okay.
but just whatever comes to mind. Okay. What's the first thing you do upon waking up?
Well, to be brutally honest, I look at my phone because I got to see what time it is. I mean, I use my phone as an alarm, and then I probably scroll it too much, like looking at stock prices or crypto prices.
Okay, well, that's
But
not it.
after I do that, I go into the bathroom and immediately jump in the after I do pee, I immediately jump in the shower because I want to get myself woken up.
Right.
I pop in the contacts, so obviously brush my teeth, and then I go downstairs and I make myself a cocktail. Not alcoholic, but I put some Baja Gold Salt, which my friend Gary Brecka recommended.
Mm.
I take 2 hydrogen tablets, and I take a little bit of these amino proteins and I shake them up in a bottle of water, and I try to drink that. It's usually like a liter.
Wow.
And then I try to hit the gym. I have yet to meet an unhappy person that gets their fat ass up in the morning and goes to the gym.
I'm
I've yet to meet someone say, "You
Yep.
lifted this morning?" I did. "You're miserable?" I never heard somebody say that.
Yeah.
So you gotta get your ass in the gym,
Yep.
do something related to your mobility, stretching, weightlifting, cardio,
Mhm.
and those are the things I try to do almost every day. If I'm traveling, it's hard for me to do. In those
That's great.
cases, I do make the cocktail, but I'm probably go right to work.
I love it. Who's
I'm a
some
big coffee drinker, by the way.
big coffee drinker,
Yeah.
okay. Someone you'd really love to meet?
Dead or alive.
Either.
Well, I would like to meet any of the great philosophers, any of the great shamans, the Buddha,
Mhm. Buddha.
Jesus, I would
Mhm.
like to meet. Homer is somebody I would like to meet because I've been really influenced by Homer.
Yeah.
General Aurelius, I would like to meet. Abraham Lincoln. I mean, there's too many people that I'd like to meet. Somebody today that I would like to meet before he passes is probably Warren Buffett. I
Mm.
met him once or twice, but to actually sit down with him, I think he's just got so much. His partner, Charlie Munger, was another person who's now passed. I would have loved to have met.
Yeah, yeah. One word that your kids would use to describe you.
Nuts.
I love how quickly that just
Yeah.
rolled off your
It's
tongue.
fucking crazy. My father is
One
out of his
piece
fucking mind. All right, go ahead.
the one piece of advice that you come back to.
Stay in the game. Laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
What did Mel Brooks say? Relax. None of us are getting out of here alive. I mean, don't take it that seriously. You know what I mean?
I
You
love
got to
it.
stay in the game, get up and stay in the game. And by the way, be comfortable with your irrelevance. You're irrelevant.
I love
Why
that.
don't you embrace that?
Yeah.
Okay. Even if you're a best selling author, or even if you're a congressman or a senator, I mean, come on. Nobody remembers who even the pharaohs were. We remember King Tut because we opened his tomb 100 years ago, right? Like I submit to you, there'll be 500 years from 1850 to 2450, and somebody 10,000 years from now, despite all of our electronics, all of our data storage, who are they going to really talk about? They're going to talk about Neil Armstrong
Yeah.
because he went extraterrestrial. He landed on the moon,
Yeah.
put his feet on the moon.
Yeah.
They're not going to give a shit about Barack Obama or Donald Trump or me. Or nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
So don't worry about that. What's my legacy? I don't have a legacy. What I have is my parenting. Okay. I've
Mhm.
decided to have children. So hopefully I can infuse in them some things that'll make them comfortable and allow them to be authentic with themselves and comfortable with themselves. And I would tell a parent listening, I can only give my kids two things. The money is really not going to matter because you and
Mhm.
I know so many people that have money and they're happy. We know so many people that have money that are unhappy. The money's not going to matter.
Yep.
But here are the two things to me that matter. Number one, celebrate the successes of your friends. Okay,
Mhm.
you're primordially designed to hit people in the head with a rock. That's where envy comes from, right? They see somebody with the cave. They got a hot cave woman. They got a bigger cave than me. Let me go over there, hit him in the head with the rock, and take the woman, right? But we don't need to do that anymore, right? There's a lot
Right.
of abundance in the world. So celebrate the successes of your friend. Be that person, and you're going to have a lot of friends. You have a lot of friends for the rest of your life. And then the other thing, pick something in your life that you want to do that you love so you don't have to work.
Mm.
Okay?
Love.
That's why you get up every morning. Hey, I'm not working. I'm doing the shit I like.
Yep.
Pick something up. If one of my kids is in the film, go do it. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear some of these parents, these parochial parents, you must be a doctor. You must be a nurse. You must be this. Hey, fuck that.
Oh, yeah.
Go do something you really like.
You're here for 5 minutes.
Dial into it. And hopefully it'll work. If it doesn't work, at least you can say with great satisfaction, you tried it.
Absolutely. Well, we'll wrap on that. Thank you
All right.
so much.
Amy,
This
thank
was
you.
really
Thank
fun.
you. Good to be with you,
Yay.
Amy. All right. Embrace that.
I think we just solved
Embrace your star
everything.
sign. Embrace your star sign.
I love it. Thank you.